anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Yes, she's been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact. She was asked if she'd do anything differently than has been done over the last 3.5, 4 years, and she said no, not a thing. Not a single thing. She would evacuate Afghanistan in exactly the same way. She'd keep the borders open in exactly the same way. All the same women would be raped and murdered by the illegal aliens. She wouldn't change a thing. Not a single thing. Wah, 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 wah. Yesterday I was talking about preparing, maybe even prepping for Election Day. Making sure that, especially if you live in big cities and full of Democrats, as they so often are, so many of whom are criminals, and the violent mobs and the guns, which are mostly illegal, but that doesn't seem to impede them, and having food handy and ready, and if you're worried about water, even having water and things like that. And cash. We were talking about it today. Have cash at the ready, too, because, when the Democrats go crazy, as they so often do. Yeah. Man, oh, man. Now, today is also Mailbag Day. It's Mailbag because it's Wednesday, and it's Hump Day, and it's Mailbag Day, and all of that stuff. And I want to get to mailbag stuff. I want to get to mailbag stuff as well. But since we're talking about Donald Trump being Hitler and CNN and all that, I see there's a caller on the line who has some concerns about this. And the rhetoric, the Democrats are always yelling at you to dial down the rhetoric. And then as soon as their breathing returns to normal, they start calling everybody Hitler again, because that's what the Democrats do. They got a bunch of socialists in their party, from Bernie Sanders to AOC and across the spectrum. A lot of them are on the spectrum, and remarkable stuff. And the Hitler people, they were the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. Just saying. Let's grab a phone call. Let's go to John calling from Kensington, Maryland. John, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris.
Hey, John.
The left is saying that Trump is worse than Hitler. However, this Hitler threshold had already been crossed with George W. Bush and Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon. So I need to prioritize. Is Trump worse than Hitler but better than Bush, or is Reagan better than Nixon? And if you go all the way back, I guess you would think that Ike was worse than Hitler.
Even though he smashed Hitler.
Yeah, and, same with Ronald Reagan and Nixon, too.
Right, yeah, as but Dwight Eisenhower, that's true, they served, but they weren't the supreme Allied commander in Europe as Dwight Eisenhower was, of course, and I know you know that, but you're right. What we have here, I think what you're describing, John, is the Democrat Party is kind of the boy who cried Hitler.
That's right.
Because they've been calling everybody Hitler for so long that at some point it will stop having the impact that it is intended to have. And you're right, of course, and they love calling everybody Hitler, and that's fine. He is, one of history's great bad guys. And, the United States, America went in there, and Dwight Eisenhower, being the supreme Allied commander in Europe, smashing Hitler and driving him back to Berlin while the Soviets came in, sacrificing 20-some-odd million Russians to smash him, but not so they could liberate Europe, so they could enslave it under a different flag with essentially the same everything that the Nazis had. But you're right. We should ask the Democrats to prioritize who their worst Hitler. Let's take Hitler and Reagan and H.W. Bush, who was a World War II Navy pilot shot down by the Japanese in the Pacific, and then W. Bush, who served in the Air National Guard and flew fighter jets, and they attacked him over that falsely in a phony story with made-up documents at 60 Minutes and all that stuff. And then Trump comes along, and everybody's Hitler, except, we're the people that crushed Hitler and the Nazis. And you're right, Reagan finally smashing the Soviet Union, which was just another form of, the Socialist Workers' Party, Europe in the 20th century. But it's Republicans that have been smashing and smiting these tyrants, and still they call everybody Hitler. And they got this woman that was calling Trump Hitler is Aisha Moody Mills, and she's naturally from Harvard. She's from the Harvard University Institute of Politics. And I'd like to point out that Aisha, her first name is Aisha, A-I-S-H-A. Aisha is named for the Prophet Muhammad's youngest bride, who was a child bride for the Prophet Muhammad. And I think he married her when she was 9, but was proud that they're all proud that he didn't deflower her until she was 12. And that makes him look good in certain circles. So Aisha, just want to remind you, Aisha, the roots of your culture. Aisha Moody Mills from Harvard is the one who's calling him Hitler. And on CNN, they sit there. And first of all, John Berman, you heard it, John. John Berman listened to what Trump said and literally seconds later completely misrepresented what he had just said and then attacked him for what he didn't say. Kind of amazing what's happened to journalism. Am I right, John?
Oh, yes. There is no journalism is lost in what we used to view as journalism.
That's a fact. That is a fact, Jack. John, thank you very much, and I love it. Yeah, let's ask the Democrats to rank, who's the biggest Hitler? It should be like a Saturday Night Live routine if they were funny there, but they're not. Amazing stuff. Speaking of Harvard, since Aisha Moody Mills comes from Harvard, the Harvard has been a hotbed of anti-Semitism. Aisha, with the child bride of the Prophet Muhammad. The day before yesterday, on the 1-year anniversary of the massacre in Israel, the 1-year mark, 1 year later, they had pro-Hamas jihadis there. And then the Harvard Crimson reporting, windows smashed, John Harvard statue vandalized in act of Palestinian resistance. This is the Harvard Crimson, the Harvard school paper. And there's their statue of John Harvard, who's not actually the founder of Harvard. But they smashed windows. The violent mob came out and attacked the Harvard campus on behalf of Hamas and Hezbollah and the Ayatollahs in Iran. And they vandalized and smashed windows and threw red paint, symbolizing blood, all over the John Harvard statue. Here they are. They make videos of themselves because they're proud of their crimes. And then they never get kicked out of Harvard because of people like Aisha running the place. Just amazing. And it's the Palestinian resistance. Well, if you're Palestinian resistance, that's a radical Islamic jihadi movement. And if you're committing acts of violence in the United States, maybe there should be sharpshooters on rooftops to take you out before things get worse. Aren't you guys amazing? Yes, you are. So, yeah, more violence at Harvard, smashing out windows, and the Harvard Crimson, the school paper, smashing the ground floor windows, University Hall, and covered the John Harvard statue in red paint as an act of solidarity with the Palestinian resistance, according to a video posted on social media. The perpetrator of the anonymous act of vandalism appeared to film themselves. Well, I made video anyway, probably not a film camera, using a blunt object to break the windows of University Hall, which houses the Faculty of Arts and Scientists, of science. It's not the Motion Picture Association. The video was published on Instagram by Unity of Fields. Unity of Fields. That's kind of like a physics reference, I think there. an account that does not appear to have any affiliation with Harvard. Yeah, sure. Right. Sure it doesn't. So they got that going for them. Isn't that amazing? Smash them out. Smash them out. Yeah, the Democrats, they've gotten into bed with the Ayatollahs in Iran. I'm on the side of the resistance in Iran that would overthrow the Islamic Revolution and the Islamic Republic. And if you just brought it back to the Reza Pahlavi, the Shah's days, there would be rights for women going to universities, women dressing like Western women, all kinds of normal things. But the Democrats, they're on the wrong side of everything, aren't they? Yes, they are. All right, gosh, I have and I've got too much to get to once again, always the case. But it's Mailbag Day. Mailbag Day. Now, Smelvis wrote in. It's like Elvis, but with SM in the front. Smelvis, like Smelly Elvis. The government is consistently the largest part of the jobs numbers, which always get revised down. What are they doing? Well, it's kind of fun that you mentioned that because we were talking about that. And, Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, Marco Rubio, he came out the other day and he's been under attack by the phony baloney news media because he talks about the jobs numbers being revised downward again and again. And the news media, they hate that. When you point out the truth, the news media, if you tell the truth, then the news media becomes angry with you because they're crazy. The Huffington Post wrote, Joe Biden calls out Marco Rubio for calling jobs numbers fake, in quotation marks, the word fake. And they do this fake fact check where they say, oh, Marco Rubio made this outrageous claim he did. I said, well, oh, yeah, Stelter, Rubio. What Rubio said was that he pointed out that the jobs numbers are, so I've pointed this out too, so frequently revised downward. And they don't like to talk about that. Now, Rubio noted that 16 of the 17 jobs reports, have been significantly revised downward after media helps them with their fake headlines, right? And so he said 16 of the last 17 jobs reports have been revised downward. And Brian Seltzerwater, Uncle Fester, he was hired back by CNN after a year of humiliation in solitude somewhere. And Brian Seltzerwater back on CNN attacking Marco Rubio.
And Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, who on Friday was tweeting about the fake jobs report, sowing doubt about the government statistics. Today, he is imploring his constituents to believe the government forecasts, to take the government information seriously, to believe the government
on the
data.
hurricane.
What a difference 3 days makes
now,
from
hold
Marco
it,
Rubio.
Hold it.
And he's supposed to be
right
one of the
there,
more responsible
because
ones.
What he did is he's showing Marco Rubio, senator from Florida, the hurricane is coming, and he's telling people, evacuate, there's a giant hurricane coming. So naturally, at CNN, Brian Seltzerwater attacks him and says, oh, sure, don't believe the jobs reports. Well, the jobs reports don't come with the patriarchal satellite images showing the giant storm approaching. Brian Seltzerwater doesn't differentiate. He said, well, one is science was satellites showing a big storm coming. The other is that they keep revising the jobs numbers downward after the fact. But Brian Seltzerwater.
And Marco Rubio, the senator from Florida, who on Friday was tweeting about the fake jobs report, sowing doubt about the government statistics. Today, he is imploring his constituents to believe the government forecasts, to take the government information seriously.
Isn't that amazing? So, and he's attacking him for knowing that the satellite images are accurate and true, but that the jobs numbers revised downward time and time again. And this Huffington Post story attacking Marco Rubio for saying that the jobs numbers were revised downward. What did he say? 15 out of 17 times. They're very angry about that. They're very angry. They think that he's got to be fact-checked on that because they were only revised downward 13 out of the last 17 times. And they think that's a real gotcha moment for Marco Rubio.
And he's supposed to be one of the more responsible ones.
Right, and you're a journalist. Yeah, he said 16 out of 17 jobs reports, and the Huffington Post says it's only 13 out of 17 jobs reports. Therefore, they fact-check Marco Rubio as wrong. But they don't fact-check the jobs reports people as wrong. Isn't that amazing? You know, an unforgettable meal brings people together. We all know that. And nothing makes a meal unforgettable like the unrivaled quality and delicious flavor of Omaha steaks. Omaha steaks from Omaha. Taste the difference and save 50% off the entire website during their semi-annual sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get an extra $30 American off with the code PLANT. That's my last name. Their legendary steaks are selected from the finest grain-finished beef for superior marbling, and then they're hand-cut by master butchers in America's heartland. Then, each steak is flash frozen at the moment of carving to retain the rich, juicy flavor. Save 50% off site-wide on mouth-watering steaks and more during the semi-annual sale at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners, that's you, get another $30 off with the code PLANT. Come on, you can thank me later. That's 50% off on the savings site-wide, plus an extra $30 off at omahasteaks.com with the code PLANT. A minimum purchase may apply. Visit omahasteaks.com for details. Yes, sir. Yeah, our news media, honestly. Yeah, it's only 13 of the last 17 times they've revised the number downward. We fact-checked that as shut up.
Give me a media critique. Was that stupid on my part?
I have pages and pages of what we got Kamala to get to. I didn't even get to a lot of the. I think there's more Brian Seltzer water too on that jobs numbers. But it's Mailbag Day too, and I'm skipping around a little bit. Stony Guy asks, if by the grace of Satan, Kamala Harris wins the presidential election, could Mike the Lib be on the short list of CIA director nominees? I think the answer to that, Stony Guy, is definitely yes, clearly yes. Mike the Lib, they would like the cut of his jib. Now, Mike the Lib was Defense Intelligence Agency his whole career. But, you know, they picked John Brennan, the Communist Party voter, to be the CIA director during the Obama-Biden administration. So Mike the Lib could definitely be CIA director. Then we'd all be spied on. All right, mailbag. Yeah, Stony Guy, by the grace of Satan, I like that. Not by the grace of God, but by the grace of Satan. They do have after-school Satan Club, the Democrats, and they harvest the organs of 40% of the black population from the womb. And then they call everybody Hitler. No sense of irony. So if by the grace of Satan Kamala wins, could Mike the Lib be on the short list for CIA director nominees? I say yes, Stony Guy. And Mike the Lib, Mike's out there. Mike the Lib's out there. I know we want you as CIA director. Not really, of course, but if John Brennan, would he be worse than John Brennan? John Brennan tampered in our last presidential election. He should be in prison. He should be in handcuffs, even while in prison. Colleen asks, back to the mailbag. Colleen asks, will the great Matthew Foldy be attending the upcoming Politics and a Pint? My husband and I are going. We're really looking forward to it. That is, Colleen, that's great because I'm going in. It's not this Friday, but next Friday, Politics and a Pint in Chicago with WLS. And Matthew Foldy did go to the University of Chicago. He didn't grow up in Chicago. He grew up in Maryland, but he did go to the University of Chicago, pretty good school. And no, Matthew Foldy will not, I mean, if he wants to come, he's welcome to. But I'm not expecting Matthew Foldy at the Politics and a Pint. And if you haven't signed up yet, the WLS website has the sign up for the Politics and a Pint a week from this Friday, just outside of the city of Chicago. And Laura asks, what advice would you give to someone thinking of running for local office? I would say, by all means, run for local office. If you don't, who will? And that's been the problem for many, many years now. And these crazy lefty, transgender, LGBT self-immolating, police car burning lunatics take over every local office. And who knew that all these local offices had actual authority? They show up at your front door and say, I'm taking away your backyard, and we're putting a bike path through your backyard. I'm sorry, what? I'm with the local environmental council. What? Get off my porch, But I would say do it, Laura. I would say we need people like you to run for every law. And by the way, it's where you start, local office, whatever it is. The environmental board, the school board, and then to the city council, and then to mayor and Congress. And it's where everybody starts at local office, almost everybody, unless you're a member of the Kennedy family or something and you're looking for girlfriends everywhere you go, But there it is. I would say, by all means, do it because you can do some good. You're on the side of the angels, and that's important, I've got to say. Man, oh, man. And Mark Studrawa sends in, what is the deal with the Bowmar calculators? Every now and then I say I got to whip out my Bowmar calculator to do my gazintas, like Jethro Bodine. 2 goes into 4, 4 goes into 8, right? So what's the deal with the Bowmar calculators? It was like your first calculator girlfriend? He says, I work on the north side of Chicago, and I see Niles North High School on my way home. I believe it should be renamed Chris Plant High School. After all, Reagan did get an airport named after him. Oh, Mark, I think that's all very nice and very thoughtful. And Michael Piercy and I were talking about this question this morning. And now I was kicked out of New Trier West High School. I didn't go to Niles North, but I was kicked out of, that was a rival high school, Niles North. And isn't that where Hillary went? Didn't she go to Niles North to high school on the north side of Chicago? Said, I believe it should be renamed Chris Plant High School. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And Reagan did get the airport here in Washington, D.C. named after him. Liberals refused to call it Reagan Airport because they're bitter and mental. But what's the deal with the Bowmar calculator? I actually know the answer to that question, and it's kind of a ridiculous answer, but I'll tell you anyway. There is an old play made into a movie called Same Time Next Year. Same Time Next Year is the name of the movie, and it was a stage play, and they still do it as a play, I think, various places. And in this play, Same Time Next Year, I believe it's about somebody who has an extramarital affair one weekend a year, same time next year, and these people, they go meet once a year at this place. And I think it's the geeky husband who's being cheated on or something is such a geek that that every time he sees a math problem, he says, because it's the 1970s and these Bowmar calculators were brand new battery-operated calculators. Now there are calculators everywhere in your iPad and your phone and your watch, But people, geeky guys, had to have their calculators with them. And every now and then in this play, in this movie, he'd say, I'll figure it out in my Bowmar calculator. And it's just a terribly geeky thing to say. So anytime I have a math problem, I think, where's my Bowmar? I've never had a Bowmar calculator. I'm not sure I've ever laid hands on a Bowmar calculator. But I can tell you from the recesses of my memory that that's where that comes from, as dumb as that may sound. Now, and that's our mailbag for the day. And it does sound geeky and dumb, I will confess. I'm not generally a geeky and dumb person, but every now and then. And it's just something I made fun of when I was 13 years old, and it stuck with me. Hey, he's got a Bowmar calculator. For me, it was the definition of a geek for a long time. Now, you got the calculator, and my iPad, I use the calculator in my iPad, not every day, but frequently, because there's a lot of math in the world, as it turns out. All right, now there's a big hurricane attacking Florida. It's called Milton, like the toaster. And the governor of Florida, who's a good guy and not a bad guy. Ron DeSantis held a press conference just a little while ago while we're on the air, and he's warning looters and illegal aliens and gang members and other Democrats not to use this as an opportunity to rob people and steal from people because we don't put up with that stuff in Florida.
Florida Department of Law Enforcement is directing deployment of additional 500 out-of-state law enforcement officers. These officers will help respond after the storm to maintain law and order. And there is going to be a lot of damage from this storm. There's going to be opportunities for people to try to take advantage of that. My message to you is don't even think about it. We are going to come down hard on you. You are not going to you're going to regret that you tried to do that.
Take advantage. You want to take advantage of the situation? I don't think we're going to tolerate that. We've got law enforcement, and we enforce the law here because that's what we do. Now, I don't think I mentioned it on the air. I just mentioned it to people here in the studio earlier when we first got in before going on the air today. But I've got a friend in Florida, lives along the water's edge. And he texted me this morning. He texted, "We shoot looters here." Now, it's a very much a Second Amendment state, right? And when you shoot looters, looting stops, lickety-split. And my friend then photographed a notice and sent it to me. This is not in the place that he lives, but in a nearby place, and I know the people that run this place. And they posted all over the place with the name. I'm not going to use the name of the place, but it says, "This is closed. We are closed until after the storm." And then it notes, "Trespassers. This is a timeshare resort, and there are no guests on site. No guests equals no cash, no jewelry, no personal belongings, no valuables in rooms. Staff are on site in various locations and are," and this is underlined, "fully prepared to protect the property. Enter at your own risk." That's pretty good. And then the name of thank you, have a nice day, because they're not kidding. And they got a lot of issues in Florida with illegal aliens flooding in and all that stuff. But that's pretty great. And what they're saying is, don't mess with us because we're not kidding, right? That's a good stuff. Yes, sir. Now there is and honestly, if you're in Florida, this is a big, huge storm. A lot of them are big, huge. Oh no, it's the biggest in a century. It's always the biggest in a century. You can't believe them because they're constantly telling us it's the biggest in a century. Then you tell them about the storms of 1938 in New England and 1900 in Galveston, and they don't know anything about them. Some of the weather people do, but on and on. But we were making fun of Harvard and this idiot Nazi woman, from the Hitler lady from Harvard. We'll just call her the Hitler lady, Aisha, the Hitler lady. Aisha, she's Mohammed's youngest bride. She's only 9. But that's another thing for another day. And now let me go to this one, because another university, another story. Virginia Tech is a wonderful university in Virginia, Southern Virginia, not very close to Washington, D.C. at all. Smart people go there. A lot of engineers go there, right? Virginia Tech, and it's in Blacksburg, Virginia. There is a PhD person there at Virginia Tech. She calls herself an academic, and Virginia Tech academic, : we did this on my Newsmax show last night, as a matter of fact, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Right Squad, Chris Plant and the Right Squad. Virginia Tech academic, : oh, how they love their colons. Stop sending humans into space. Why would you stop sending humans into space? It's imperialists. That's what she says. It's imperialists to send humans into space. And so she doesn't want people going into space anymore because she's anti-imperialist. Now, exactly who would be colonized in space by the American imperialists, I don't know. But Dave Huber, the wonderful Dave Huber, associate editor at the College Fix, wrote the story, and he's great. He was at Newsbusters Media Research Center. Great guy, Dave Huber. And he wrote it. Yet another university academic is warning about continued human space exploration due to its, quote, imperialist mindset, end quote. Savannah Mandel, PhD candidate at Virginia Tech and an outer space anthropologist. Isn't anthropology the study of humankind? But outer space I guess she's, and if there are all these people out there to, be an anthropologist with, shouldn't we really be exploring? She's an outer space anthropologist, adds to what seems to be a trendy argument about investigations into outer space, according to Virginia Tech News. Mandel's book, which is called Ground Control. To Major Tom, it's Ground Control, an argument for the end of human space exploration. And Savannah Mandel, she argues that rushing to send more humans into space mirrors an imperialist mindset that harms Earth's humanity and environment. How would that harm the environment? Well, the rockets have to blast off, and Mandel said the space industry is highly bureaucratic. That's true. Highly politicized. Well, fortunately, Elon Musk is coming along to privatize, make it a lot better, streamline it. And highly technical. Yes, it is highly technical. Thank you, Savannah. And the more she learned, the more she began to question the utility of continued manned spaceflight operations. She said she wants systemic change in human-led space efforts, one of which is the inclusion, they love that word, inclusion, of more social scientists. Should they be LGBTQ POC or WOC, people of color or women of color? Would that make it better, space travel? That's what she wants. Mandel noted that when she worked at Spaceport America, she would list all the pop stars going on Virgin Galactic flights. It's it's not Virgin Atlantic, it's Virgin because the galaxy and all that. And would also note the poverty statistics in the local area. As long as there's one poor person anywhere on Earth, you can't advance anything. You have to freeze in space, like freeze tag. You got to freeze. Freeze tag. Isn't that amazing? Such a stark contrast, she said. When I went to Washington, D.C. and started working in space policy and science writing, I saw how militarized space exploration was and how colonial the rhetoric was around it. She's going to get her PhD and then become a professor because, what else would she do? Amazing. Isn't that great? I'm guessing she's a Democrat. That's what I think. No. Have you heard about the man from Afghanistan in Oklahoma plotting an election day terrorist attack on behalf of ISIS? You know how he got into the country? That's coming up. Ah, yes. So the Democrats, they love terrorists. They've created most of the terrorist organizations in the history of the United States, from the KKK to the SDS and the Weather Underground and the Symbionese. I think the Symbionese Liberation Army, that's an important one that people forget. They kidnapped Patty Hearst and all that stuff. And now we've got an election day terror plot in the United States. An Afghan man in Oklahoma plotted an election day terror attack in the United States on behalf of ISIS, the Justice Department said yesterday. They arrested a 27-year-old Afghan national, a man, Nasser Ahmad Tawahidi. And now Nasser, I'll just call him Nasser. Nasser Awad Tawahid, he 27 years old, and he was plotting with an underage person that as a co-conspirator to die as martyrs on Election Day, murdering Americans all over the place. I want to know the name of the minor as well. And Nasser Ahmad Tawhidi. He obtained firearms and ammunition, getting ready for the violent attack. He came into the United States on September 9th of 2021, just weeks after the disastrous troop withdrawal from Afghanistan. And he arrived in the United States on a special visa, was granted parole by the Biden administration to come into the United States pending the adjudication of his immigration proceedings, which might be years and years from now. But that is this is the Democrat Party's plan, the disastrous pullout from Afghanistan, leaving the country in the hands of the Taliban, where they've gone back to stoning women to death, and that doesn't mean they're smoking pot with them. They're throwing rocks at them until they kill them. And the hangings have returned for gay people and everybody else, and the Democrats are applauding Joe Biden's good work. So here comes Nasser Ahmad Tawhidi, 27 years old and a minor person. He arrived in the country, again, should have arrived on September 11th, 2021. There'd be a certain symmetry to that. And he's here on Joe Biden's stay here for free, for nothing kind of thing. Just amazing. Plotting the attack. Also, I'm running out of time on myself, aren't I? As I so often do. I've got more news because Newsmax TV is now on YouTube TV. As of, is it of noon today? Big news, Newsmax joins YouTube's pay TV service, but it's inexpensive, and they're lineup, and you get all kinds of stuff. Newsmax TV, the fourth highest rated cable news. And my show is on there at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. And now available if you have YouTube TV. That's good news. That's good stuff.